Welcome back to Second Breakfast and our ongoing Summerween series, celebrating hot weather and horror movies by bringing you the best thoughts, theories, and literary analysis this side of the geographically non-specific apocalypse.
Perfect. In this episode, we're discussing The Long Walk, which is a new movie that just came out based on a Stephen King story. In this episode, we're going to investigate the exceptional intensity of this movie and try to identify the three storytelling elements that contribute to that really intense feeling. We're also going to talk about genre because this movie is kind of hard to pin down, so let's get into it.
All right, so this is an emergency midweek episode interrupting, or not interrupting your regularly scheduled program, adding to your regularly scheduled program.
There you go.
So this is The Long Walk, and I think we both had high expectations and hopes for this film, and they blew past even that.
Yeah.
This is, I think this might be one of my favorite films of the year. It's definitely the film I've had the strongest reaction to of any in any genre in 2025.
Absolutely. It really surprised me. I mean, I had high hopes just because it's Stephen King and I'm always really excited for a Stephen King adaptation. And this is one I haven't read, so I was curious about that, But I was also a little nervous because this kind of story and premise has potential to be really cheesy and just kind of cringy and not very good, and I was really nervous that's what we were going to get. Listener, we did not get that. We got a beautiful movie. It was really good.
And that's the thing, to piggyback that point, it isn't just Stephen King. We also went into this loving David Johnson from Alien Romulus. We covered that movie when it came out. Go check out that episode. Mm-hmm. He's even more amazing here than he was there.
He plays the AI robot in Alien Romulus, and he's really, really good.
It's exceptional, profound work he's doing here.
Yeah.
But even just on the creative team, I was looking at the IMDb and kind of piecing it together. This is a dream team for this story, and I want to break that down. It's three people in particular.
Okay.
You already mentioned Stephen King.
Of course.
And I think the thing we love about him, because we do so much horror now on the show, it's not just his horror. I don't think that's what we point to as, he has the best scary monsters. That's not what we point to. That's not why we love him.
That's not what's exceptional about him. What's exceptional about him is his character work.
Exactly. And dialogue. And that sense of realism, his knack for character, and particularly the potent simplicity of his premises. Mm-hmm. I mean, we there's a silly shorthand you can do of clown bad,
what if
car bad,
what if X bad,
prom bad, dog bad.
Yeah,
but it works. It hooks people. It's simple to understand, and what he does with that simple premise is always fascinating.
Absolutely,
he finds so much within that,
and
the characters feel so living and lived in and breathing.
And he's really great at when you've got a tapestry of characters. That's why something like It is so good, because you're weaving these 7 stories all together. That's why something like this is so good, because you've got this large ensemble of, boys and young men going on this walk. So you start out with 30 of them or something, and you get to know a lot of them, and you see how they interweave and interact with each other. He's so good at making you fall in love with and become invested in people so quickly and understanding them so quickly and being also curious about them and then revealing things as the story goes on. That's what he's so good at. When you tie it in with these really interesting, fascinating, and sometimes simple but effective premises, it makes for incredible storytelling.
And lest we miss the forest for the trees here, just to hit the premise for a second, if you haven't seen the movie or even a trailer. The trailers are good because these concise premises, they work really well in a trailer.
Yeah, they do.
You can communicate the plots really quickly, and I think that's endlessly valuable.
His stories are so marketable.
So this is
really good.
There's been some non-specific civil war or something in the country that has led to a militaristic crackdown, and everyone is impoverished and miserable, and the government is extremely overbearing, and every year they do this thing called the Long Walk, where seemingly every teenage, early 20s boy in the country volunteers for this thing. And it's, I think, 50 of them at the beginning of the story.
I can't remember how many,
30 to 50, something like that. And they're walking. They have to stay over 3 miles an hour, or they get shot by the tanks and military vehicles that are following them. And they've all got these little watches on that monitor the rate at which they're walking. And if you fall behind, you get a warning. And if you get a couple warnings, they shoot you.
Yes.
And the person who wins gets a ton of money, and they get to ask for one wish from the government. So it's them getting to escape poverty.
Right. So it's literally just walking for days and days and days, and you can't stop. You can't stop to eat. You can't stop to go to the bathroom. You can't stop to sleep. It's just straight walking.
And whoever the last person standing is wins.
Yeah.
And presumably everyone else has been killed.
Yes, right.
That's the premise. Incredibly rich and potent and spooky. And it's not just having Stephen King, having the depth of that source material that makes the movie sing. It's the choices of writer and director. And I think the big thing for me is that they're not the same person. I usually love when one person does as much as possible.
Right, because we love a singular vision. Like, that's always really exciting.
I love it for writer-directors. In the world of comics, I love it for a writer-artist. In the world of books and audiobooks, I love when the narrator is the author.
Yes.
I think you get more of that pure vision. You get more of an insight into intent.
Yes.
And the spirit of the thing. But there's something to be said for specialization, for having one person do the source material really well, then having a dedicated writer, and then having a dedicated director, and having everyone work really hard in one field instead of possibly splitting their attentions or their energies where the whole product will suffer.
Right.
So for the screenwriter here, we have J.T. Molnar, who we also adore from an episode we did in the past on Strange Darling.
Ah, yes.
Which is probably the most gorgeous and inventive and exciting indie horror movie of the so far this decade.
Yeah, we really liked that movie. Did he write and direct or just write?
Yes, he did both there.
Okay.
And I think about that film constantly.
Yeah, that was a really good movie. Like, it's so hard to talk about because you really don't want to spoil it. Like, it's really best to not know much, but it's like a weird, like, non-linear serial killer kind of thing. It's really,
unbelievable.
really good.
It's gorgeous too. So him just on script writing duties here, he brings that rigorous craft because there's so much experimentation and stretching of form in Strange Darling. It's such a fantastically written thing, even before you get to how good it looks. So him having such a talent for reversals, character investigations, the kind of restlessness of form, and particularly a lockjaw skill for pacing, I think adds so much to this film. So you've got great source material and a great adaptation from a great writer in his own right. You know, different spellings.
I got you.
And then you add on top of that a fantastic director. And this is Francis Lawrence, who we principally know from The Hunger Games.
Which is so funny because these are actually like, they're both kind of like similar, you know, young people in a dystopian world kind of duking it out to the death. That's a really interesting connection. Did he do the first Hunger Games or was he on the other ones?
He's done all of them.
Well, there was a directorial switch between one and the rest.
Okay, he's done almost all of them.
Okay, I was curious if he was that first one or the later ones. The later ones?
Yeah, I mean, he's done the majority or all of them.
Okay, cool.
To the point where he's still doing the new ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting.
What do you make of him doing this after doing Hunger Games?
I think, I mean, apart from the like similar premises of these two stories, I think he's also, you're capturing a lot of like movement and trying to get a lot on screen because you've got a lot of people to work with. Like, I think it's really hard to, number one, write a story where you've got all of these different characters where you have to meet them quickly, remember them quickly, know who they are, and like immediately start to form opinions and that kind of thing. So writing that is difficult, but I think it's also hard to direct and show that on screen because you don't want to overwhelm the audience and show too many people. You need to be able to cut back and forth. And like, I think there's a lot of creative dancing that has to happen there. And he's kind of proven that already in Hunger Games. So it makes sense for him to do it here. And then just the constant, motion of this movie. Every single shot, they are walking. Like, it is constantly in motion. We were talking about how the actors were walking like 10 miles a day in filming this movie. And I'm sure like from a logistical standpoint, that was really complicated and difficult. But he's sort of demonstrated that he can do these like exterior, on location, complicated ensemble of people movies. And I think that's a really interesting crossover.
We were in the car the other day and we were talking about Camus. And I was remembering when I read The Stranger. I think I was in like middle school.
Yeah.
I liked the cover and I liked the funny name and I just, went for it. And now I have a philosophy degree. But in his bibliography, is that the word, I guess?
Sure.
It's not discography.
It's
not filmography.
That's fine. Bibliography is fine. Yeah.
He wrote other earlier works that were kind of germ versions of The Stranger. And then he wrote the definitive version of that story with The Stranger. And I think this film functions the same way for Francis Lawrence, where it feels like a more mature, brutal, and distilled version of a lot of the things he did so well in Hunger Games.
Oh, okay.
Particularly the satirical element, where it's not like either film is funny in that way, but there's something bitter and true and grim in how they stage this apocalyptic class warfare.
Yeah.
There's something sinister and sharp in the staging of it that feels satirical, even if it's not a ha-ha funny kind of thing.
Right, because we're kind of like in the Hunger Games, we're laughing at and making fun of the people in the Capitol, even though they are very dangerous and serious. And we kind of do the same with the general here.
It's the absurdism of so much of it.
I mean, the premises alone are very absurd, like having kids kill each other or having kids, walk till they die. Like, that's so over the top and so ridiculous, but you also so much believe it within the story.
And the thing that makes you believe it, the thing that sells the kind of heightened, strange premise is the characters. Mm-hmm. But I think what he does so well in directing actors and drawing these performances out of so many great actors over the years in these various films, I think it's empathy. Where even the characters who are total shits, because there are always people in Hunger Games, there are always people who are kind of the enemies of our heroes, our protagonists.
Yeah, there's always some shitty contestant,
It's the same way here. But I think there's this rapturous, unflinching empathy for everyone. Even the people who are unkind or flawed or do really shitty things on camera.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's that empathy with the grim kind of bitterness of the satire. It balances out for just incredible drama.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's a beautiful combination. This creative team is so pitch perfect. I mean, there's like an alchemy to how you combine these three guys. I'm just so impressed.
Yeah, me too. It was a really good combination.
So talking about the film itself, the one word that I couldn't escape, and the reason why I wanted to talk this out with you, it's the word that you previewed in our intro. It's intensity. Mm-hmm. And we haven't really talked about this yet before recording, but because I wanted to walk through it here, it's just, I don't know. These days, after doing this for so fucking long, I don't really know what I think of something until I talk about it and do the notes.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know what I think until we record it.
It's really weird, but we've totally successfully rewired our brains.
It's wild.
This is episode 562, so we are completely different people than we were when we started.
That's very true.
Intensity. This is the first film I've ever seriously considered walking out of multiple times.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
There have been moments in the past where something's been so not to our taste that you've kind of given me the look of like, if you want to go too, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, we had that with like Skinamarink. We had that with...
Honey, don't. I was trying to be polite by not naming them, but
also with Eraserhead, we had a tough time with that film.
So there have been those where they just don't work for us to the point that maybe we'll bounce.
Yeah.
But in my heart, I will never do that.
No,
I will never leave something because I don't like it because, for one, I want to see the ending and maybe I'll change my mind.
Sure.
But it also just feels rude.
It is. It's incredibly disrespectful.
I would never do that.
Yeah, unless like in very extreme circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a different thing. This was that I genuinely felt like it hit these moments that felt unsustainable for me, where I felt like I kind of just couldn't handle it.
Wow.
It was the tension, it was the emotion, and it was the violence. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. And, in a minute, we're going to try to figure out why it hits that height and why it's so potent. But the only corollary I could think of is the French horror movie Inside.
Yeah.
And to kind of sidebar for a minute, we outlined an episode that was about my reaction to Inside. We never ended up recording it. It's one of the only ones that's just completely fallen through the cracks.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything we've ever outlined, we've ended up recording. And that's one of the only ones we didn't. So to do that for a second, it was about us taking kind of a horror movie hiatus. And that was this French movie that we saw at Terror Tuesday at Alamo Drafthouse. Awesome, whole bunch of people there for the right reasons. They shut the fuck up. It's the best. It's the best crowd in movies
because it's like
anywhere.
It's like 9:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. So like you only go to this movie if you're really like dedicated to seeing it. It's all about like appreciation for films and the genre. It's very fun.
And we'd never seen the film, didn't know anything about it, but we're in the mood to be kind of fucked up by something.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before. The two things I can't handle in horror movies, it's old people and home invasions. And this is the ultimate home invasion movie. And
on a deeply personal, intimate level.
and that one was so intense and overwhelming that I never wanted to leave because I was so enraptured and kind of almost paralyzed and glued to my seat.
We couldn't get up.
I could barely breathe watching it. Like when we saw Cloverfield in 35 millimeter.
Yeah,
that freaked me out in a different way too.
Yeah.
I never wanted to leave during Inside. It was just after that, I didn't want to watch a horror movie for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So that was a different kind of overwhelming. But this was, I don't know, I felt so high strung. My emotions were searing for, I don't know, however long it was. And it felt like hours and hours in a good way. I felt so precarious and on edge that there were moments where I just wanted to run out of the theater and walk around for a bit and like stabilize myself.
And I wonder if like, I think I felt a lot of that too. And I didn't, not as much as I wanted to leave the theater, but it felt really intense. And it was so jarring because I wasn't expecting that. Like, I don't know why I didn't expect this, because Stephen King's stories are always like gut-wrenching. But I think I just thought it was going to be a bit more like spooky, freaky horror and less like, oh, like really emotionally tear your heart out horror. Like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, cool ways to die. Oh no, what are they going to do? Ooh, run away from the guns. Like, I didn't think it was going to be silly, but I didn't think it was going to be so emotional. I think the horror elements were going to be, I thought they were going to be more present compared to the like character emotional work. And so the fact that the characters were so central, the fact that it was so emotionally intense, was not only intense on its face, but it was unexpected, and therefore it was jarring. I tried to be deliberate in the way I was phrasing everything I just said, because I didn't really use the word horror. Yeah. When we saw Inside, and that fucked me up, I didn't want to watch a horror movie for a while. Yes, right.
Watching The Long Walk didn't make me not want to watch horror in particular.
Sure.
It was just so, or the word you used was emotional. It was the emotion that was so intense and overwhelming. So to kind of frame that into a question we can play with here, I was trying to check my assumptions. Is this film a horror movie?
I know. I was trying to think about that too. I wouldn't call it horror. I mean, there are elements of like body horror. You see some pretty gross, grim stuff. Like there's a minor spoiler, but this one kid twists his ankle, but he has to keep walking. And after several miles, his like bone is sticking out of his ankle and he's walking on his bone. Like it's disgusting. It's awful.
There's incredibly memorable violence.
Yeah. And you see like the first kill is like, you see,
it's really bad.
You see
it's
everything
really
and
bad.
it's very bad.
I mean,
but
we talked about this even in like Banshees of Inisherin.
Right.
Memorable violence can happen. We did an episode there too.
We did.
Memorable violence can happen regardless of medium.
Right. So this wasn't horror. I wouldn't call this horror, even though it's like, oh, it's Stephen King. It's more like,
I meant genre, not medium.
I know
Sorry.
you meant that. I just moved on right past it. I wouldn't call this horror. I don't know what I would call it. I guess apocalyptic drama.
Well, I was trying to gesture at that too. The best I got here is dystopian speculative fiction.
Yeah,
but even that feels a little too garnished.
Lighthearted or something.
I think, honestly, it's just old-fashioned drama.
Yeah.
But in
a post-apocalyptic setting.
Yes, and I think that's where the Francis Lawrence pedigree comes in. But if you look at the bones of the thing, which is always the writing, I don't think it's a coincidence that it's coming from two guys who we know from horror, with Stephen King and J.T. Molnar. Because I think this story very much has the structure of a horror movie. And
yeah, true. Very like slasher, because it's one by one. They're getting killed off.
That's exactly where I'm going. Yes. I talked about J.T. Molnar's penchant for pacing earlier. And it is the pacing of a slasher movie here, where there's a death every few minutes.
Yes.
But I think the thing that made me so nervous is that the killer in the movie, which is the military with the guns threatening to shoot these kids, the killer is on screen the entire time. Yeah,
they're not hiding in the shadows. They're not like, are they going to pop out? Or it's not a whodunit. It's not who among us. It's the killer. We know exactly who it is, and they're there the whole time.
We know the rules, and they're always there on the periphery of the frame.
And they even warn you before they kill you. They give you 3 warnings.
And the guns are drawn, and you can see them kind of wave in and out of the frame.
And yet it's always so jarring and upsetting when someone dies.
And we've talked about this in our previous slasher discussions, Friday the 13th, Halloween, a million other ones. But I think it extends in a different way, because we've talked about build-up a lot with slashers and how they're paced out, and the Agatha Christie factor of "and then there were none," and how you winnow down your main cast. I remember when we talked about Empire Strikes Back, we described that movie. We're trying to figure out why it feels so propulsive in comparison even to the first Star Wars movie. And we were saying it's the fact that it feels like this constant chase scene. This movie is kind of magical because there's no build-up to the kills, but there's also always build-up happening.
Yes,
it's strange to be able to do those things at the same time because they're always wearing the watches, they're always being monitored, and if they fall behind, they'll just be killed. So you always know that they're on a knife's edge of if they're going to be executed. But there's also not the traditional 2 minutes of stalking while John Carpenter plays the synths and then you see the knife raise up. There's not... Like, what do you make of this slasher build?
It just kind of felt like we were in that lead up to a kill the entire time because the killer is always there and there's always the threat that someone could fall behind. I mean, there are of course moments where you can tell, oh, something's about to happen because someone has a problem, someone falls behind, somebody falls down, somebody antagonizes somebody else, and then like the music changes and like you can tell when someone's about to die or almost about to die. But you're still like in this heightened like hum of anticipation the whole way through. There are no moments of downtime. There are moments of like emotional change and like someone's having a serious conversation and like the music has changed. Like you can tell that Peter and Raymond are having a emotional moment talking about something philosophical and meaningful. But you still see the general behind them. You see the guns. You see the floodlight when they're walking at night. Like you can see them still struggling. And as the movie goes, they become more and more exhausted. And so the chances of somebody dying are higher and higher. Or somebody you care about dying is higher and higher. So it's a strange thing because you're always in the chase scene, but it just varies in intensity.
It's difficult because when you describe it like that, I'm trying to imagine that I haven't seen the movie.
Right.
That description on paper sounds fatiguing for an audience member. Like that kind of sustained tension over time, I would either grow numb to, get bored of, or just kind of adjust to and get used to it. But that never happened. As much as I felt tension here, I never felt exhausted by what was happening. It always felt so alive. Right. I really was on edge for the entire runtime.
I was like simultaneously comfortable in it in that I got used to it, but it still felt awful the whole time. Like there are other movies where the tension is so high the whole time that it's like a different experience. Like I'm thinking about 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is one of the sequels to Cloverfield. And I remember distinctly feeling like the entire time watching that movie, I was like having a panic attack, like the whole way through.
What a movie.
And that's an effective, amazing thing. And that movie was great. That's not a critique at all. It was great. But that's not what this movie felt like. It wasn't that kind of intensity the whole way through. So I kind of felt like I was experiencing what the characters were experiencing, which was I've gotten used to this. I'm in this level of tension and exhaustion, but I'm also, but like I'm used to it and comfortable enough with it that I can survive through it, even though it feels really shitty. And then when it has these heightened moments where somebody dies or something bad happens, it feels so much worse. But it's not so overwhelming that I want to run away or that I have to become numb to it.
It's not off-putting.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and I think within the world of horror, the closest corollary here is It Follows.
Oh, okay.
Which is also a really effective slow motion chase scene for the entire runtime. To move to my other question here, in trying to dig into this intensity, and I want to open it up to you first, and then I have kind of 3 possibilities. What do you think it is? What elements of story or craft, what is it about the movie that made the experience of watching it so intense and harrowing?
I think it was the relationships and the characters on screen. And I think it was that. It was a couple things. It was that in that these characters have to very quickly form friendships and alliances right away. And you see the complications of that and the challenges of that. And the very weird thing, which you get in something like The Hunger Games too, where the characters want to be friends and kind to each other and better than the world they're in, while they know in the back of their heads, only one of us is going to live and I'm going to have to watch all these people die, or I'm going to die, or both. And that's like so horrible, but you see them trying to be good, trying to be good people, trying to, be better than this system they're in.
I just wanted to jump on that for a second because I think comparing it to the slasher structure, they're usually oblivious. They're making
right.
friendships, they're making relationships where they don't know that those relationships are doomed.
Right.
They think, oh, maybe I'll find my girlfriend here at the sleepaway camp.
And then even once the killer, makes themselves known and the fear creeps in, they're still like thinking they have a chance of saving their friendships and relationships.
But here they know it's a bad idea and they know they're going to lose this people. And the basic just humanity of it is they can't help but form these connections.
Right. And then, of course, in this kind of story, you end up getting backstory about these characters. You learn about what happened with our main character, Raymond, and his dad and his mom. We learn about what happens with Peter and his family. We learn about what happens with other kids. And so there's that, emotional turmoil. So that's one element of it. And that's, I think, the biggest. But I think the other is just the entirely non-romantic nature of the military following them. Like, I feel like I said at the top of this episode, I was worried it would be cheesy. And I think a cheesier movie would have made the deaths feel more, I don't know, romantic and dramatic. And like, I think it's so hard to articulate, but they felt so cold. The guys with the guns felt so cold and harsh, and the gunshots were so loud. Like some movies with guns, you like especially when there are a lot of them, you don't want to overwhelm your audience, so you get used to them, and it's just, it's a loud sound and it sucks, but whatever. This felt shocking every time, even though we heard gunshots, 50 times. It felt so shocking and harsh and gross and undignified.
Right. It didn't feel cool and stylized like it might in a fun action movie, a Mission Impossible or whatever.
Yeah, right.
This felt. Do you think maybe a good comparison would be A24's Civil War?
I was thinking a lot about Civil War.
No, Warfare.
Warfare, both of them.
I always confuse those two.
Well, yeah, both of them, honestly.
Particularly Warfare, though.
Yeah, I felt a lot of Alex Garland in this, where those two movies are also, they're about warfare and Civil War. Wow. They also do not feel romantic or cinematic. They just feel awful.
And desperate. Unglamorous.
Yes, unglamorous, exactly. And the fact that, like, I don't want to spoil this movie, but some of these, I keep calling them kids. I'm sure they're in their 20s, but they feel like kids to me because I'm older than all of them now.
They're also notably younger than their oppressors.
And some of them are genuinely kids. Yeah. The way some of these kids die is horribly undignified, and it's like, and it's so sad. Like, some of them die more heroic deaths, and that's also beautiful and tragic in their own way. But some of them just die because of really awful, like, normal things. And and I think what really bothered me was, so the way that the warning system works, you get 3 warnings. If you fall behind on the 3 miles an hour thing, you get a warning. If you don't get back up to speed within 10 seconds, you get a second warning, and then again a third. After that third warning, that's when they say you get your ticket, which means they kill you on sight. And the fact that there would be kids who, like, somebody fell behind because they were incredibly injured, there's no way they're gonna get up. Like the guy who twisted his foot, he is fucked. The first time he falls down, he doesn't need 2 more warnings. And they know that, but they still wait there with a gun to his head and give him his 2 other warnings before they kill him. And that feels so evil to me. Or like when one of the kids, he, tries to kind of sabotage it and he gets shot in the stomach, and they just let him die to make an example of him rather than like shooting him in the head and ending it. They let him bleed out and be miserable for a long, long time. Like, that was so cold and evil and like systematic to me.
And I think when you're trying to, especially in this type of sort of apocalypse fiction, when you're trying to represent an oppressive or authoritarian government, I think it's always the Jaws rule. It's always the Hitchcock thing of less is more. Mm-hmm. The more you have, Mark Hamill's, I think he's pretty good here as the general, mm-hmm. but I think the more he talks, the less scary he is.
Yes, for sure.
I think he could have been more of a remote Darth Vader kind of figure.
He almost became kind of caricature-y. He was, I think, it wasn't his fault. I think it was just that character was the weakest part of this movie.
But yeah, I think the less speechifying and the less of the kind of drill sergeant pastiche that you do, the more powerful it is. Because you're right, the thing that is so moving is the coldness. Mm-hmm. With that militaristic flair. That's what it just ice in your veins when you're watching it. Yeah. And I think mostly they really nailed that here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. I think, so it was kind of those two things that for me made it so intense.
We haven't talked about music. I feel like the difference between a cold, what did you call it? Non-romantic, non-cinematic death and a heroic sacrifice. A lot of the times it can be music.
Music plays a huge role in that, yeah.
How did you think the music kind of balanced the violence here?
I didn't notice the music all that much, which I think was a good thing for this movie. Sometimes you want to really notice the music, but I didn't notice it here. But I think there were moments where we did get more swelling romantic music, but they were, in my memory, they were few and like very intentional. Sometimes when somebody died, it was just like, you just kind of had some like ominous beats in the background, or there was no music at all. And it was just like, boom, they're dead. It wasn't overly romantic. But when a character we know better or was dying, or somebody did something a bit more heroic, we got a bit more music to it. But I don't remember it being overwhelming or it like taking over the scene. I was much more noticing what was happening and less like what the movie was trying to make me feel. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What did you notice about the music?
They leaned much more on the actors' performances than they did music to kind of instruct you how to be feeling. I really only think I noticed the music during the sort of emotional, almost happy counterpoint scenes, the counterweights to all the horrific stuff happening, when there would be moments of connection or friendship or levity. That's where I noticed the music more. But I'm glad they pulled back in the more dramatically intense scenes.
Yeah,
because I think you could have easily over-seasoned a movie like this with
definitely
music.
Yeah, I think this movie so easily could have been just too much in a bad way.
And if I can jump in with one of my things.
Please, yeah.
To go back to the writing, you mentioned the character's backstory, and we just talked about the role that the music played. I think you can roll all of that into one compliment about restraint, where there wasn't too much backstory. It wasn't too emotional and tugging at the heartstrings and almost manipulative in a way.
Right.
We developed the investment for the characters in the moment. It wasn't like Orange is the New Black where you're waiting to see someone's sad backstory. It wasn't like that.
No.
I love that they developed it in the moment.
Yeah, we did, because we didn't get backstories for a while, or we just got the vaguest hint. Yeah, the reason that we fell in love with characters was because of how they were there, not because of some tragedy that had happened to them before. So it was like when you did get the reveal of whatever backstory they had, it hit you all the harder. It was really well done.
They were delayed callback, or not callbacks, but flashbacks. Yeah. Because you already knew them and they'd already hinted at where they came from. And when you saw them, you only got flashes of what happened, just enough so you could fill in the gaps. Yes. It wasn't a big, sweeping, soaring, tragic thing. Yeah. And I think, again, that's incredibly admirable. But it was also the moments to breathe so that I didn't walk out of the theater. I mean, that's sort of balancing. That's what the editor, that's what the writer, that's what the director does. So the fact that I didn't ever actually get up out of my seat is a compliment to all of these different artistic feats, all of these different masteries and occupations. The second one I wanted to play with is casting. And we talked a little bit about David Johnson before, but Cooper Hoffman is fantastic here too.
He's our main character.
Yeah. And it's interesting. There's a lot of contrast between these characters. The way they're always moving. You mentioned that before.
Yes.
So you get a lot of characterization through body language, through their gait, through the way they're pacing their movement. Some of them walk alone. Some of them walk faster than everyone else to kind of show off and send a message.
Yeah.
And that amount of unspoken expression, I just loved drinking up and watching. And that is all actors' performances. Yes, they can be directed, but they're doing so much performance in this film, more than most movies where at least some of it is people sitting and talking.
Right.
There was constant expression, and every time my eyes wandered from whoever was in focus, I could see that everyone was still living their character.
Yes, absolutely.
Everyone was still in pain or struggling or kind of wandering off.
Right.
There are parts where they sort of have to sleep by holding on to each other, but still walking, kind of dozing. There was so much performance here, but it didn't feel overacted. It didn't feel overbearing. There was such heart to everyone, even the guys who were absolute pieces of shit. I loved that everyone had a heart eventually.
Me too.
And that just in tone and expression and body language, there were these unbelievable transformations right before our eyes. I mean, that's the magic of acting, especially back to the origins in stage acting, is that this person can come out, and if we all suspend our disbelief, they can be Richard III.
Right.
They can do the Walter White to Heisenberg transformation, and if they sell that hard enough, we believe in it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was really smart to, like within the group of boys walking, there are villains within there. Like there are people who do bad things, like we've mentioned, right? People who are like, you are very much like, yeah, I don't want them to win. I hope they die before my main characters,
But you don't
continue.
really.
Well, and that's the thing is, by the time every single character dies, you see it as a tragedy. And you remember constantly that the real enemy is not any of them. It's the people with the guns who are following them. Like, you're never like, oh, well, thank goodness that guy died. Like, you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe that person died. And that's how our characters feel too. Like, because you see them walking and you see them thinking this conflicting, like going through this conflicted mindset of, well, I obviously don't want to die. I want to be the one who wins. So it's, the more people die, the more likely I am to win. So it's like one down, and someone even says that at one point earlier on in the walk. But you can tell that every death is so affecting to them. And it's not just, I don't think it's just because they're afraid for themselves. They're not like, oh, that could happen to me. It's, I'm so sad that guy died. Even if it's not somebody they knew or were friends with on the walk, they see every death as a tragedy, and so do we.
Yes,
and that's
especially the longer you go, when you know these people so much better. And I think I called this more mature than the Hunger Games before. I didn't mean that as a knock necessarily.
Sure.
I just think this is a better version, but it's also, it is more mature if you look at the content, the violence, the language.
It's a story for adults in Hunger Games. It's not. Adults like me can definitely enjoy and appreciate the Hunger Games, but it's aimed at a teen audience.
It's also, I don't know, because we grew up during that age of heroic apocalypse teenage fiction.
Yeah.
Where,
the golden age of YA fiction we grew up in.
YA, yes, exactly. That's the missing name there. Because if the teenagers believe hard and, vague ideas of revolution, then they can take down the despotic leader and everything will be fine.
Right.
And I think, and I know I'm broad brushing there, and that those franchises, they're more complex and nuanced than that.
Yeah, especially Hunger Games. It really gets into some nuanced elements in the later book.
Especially the aftermath, yes, of that original games. But I found this more layered. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but I find the temperament of this film, I think there's more depth there. I think there's more to be gained.
Uh-huh. And there's also just a more... It's more individually focused because the Hunger Games naturally, kind of spreads out and becomes about the larger revolution. And, so many more things happen because it's 3 books instead of 1. And you get this more like systematic situation happening. Whereas here it's much more individual and the storyline takes place over like 5 or 6 days. And there's still ripple effects of this story within the world, but it is more individualized. And I think that allows you to, explore something a bit more deeply rather than trying to cover a lot of bases.
I think it makes it more flexible and relevant, too. When you talked about Civil War before, I think there's an interesting crossover here because neither film at all, and very pointedly, explores the inciting incident.
No, we don't really know what happened. It's pretty vague, and we don't really know where we are in time. Like, are we in modern day? Are we 200 years in the future? Are we in an imagined past? Like, it's kind of unclear and on purpose. And I like that, and Civil War is a lot like that, too. There are a lot of specifics we don't know, but
What incited this breakdown in society? What was the war or civil war that led us here?
What are the two sides? What's going on there?
And do you like that? I think that makes it... Do you think it makes it more of a cipher or a Rorschach test for the audience? Do you think it makes it more timeless as a work of art? Like, what's the advantage of pulling that punch?
I think the timelessness is really important. If you cement something way too specifically in time and place and scenario, then in 50 years, it might feel really goofy, or stupid. But this story itself, when did he write this? Probably, decades ago.
Oh, I have no idea.
This isn't a recent story of his. I think it's older. So the fact that it, feels so possible and true now is telling of its timeless quality. And that's, I think, a great thing. But I think it is also, it just means that your audience can connect with it more because something about this story feels pretty American. But it doesn't have to be. I think somebody in another country can also find a lot of comparisons to and parallels to this story and can feel like, oh, this could happen to me. And I think that's important. I think
Universality.
And the vagueness and ambiguity, I think, is helpful. And again, the focus is not on what if this very specific thing happened in the United States 50 years from now. It's what happens when systems fail you and governments are tyrannical and good people try to survive and maintain their humanity. That's the more interesting question, and we're focusing on that.
Yes. I feel like there's a strange kind of pattern within this YA or dystopian fiction within that genre. I feel like in the same way within horror as a whole, there's a grafting that people do of themselves onto the characters, where when you discuss a lot of these premises, like the Hunger Games, people start saying, well, I would do this, that, and the other, and hide in the tree and grab the bow first.
Yeah, right.
And I think there are a lot of, especially with these really digestible, scary premises, people tend to run off in their heads and play with what they would do. At no point in this film did I think, well, I would do this, that, and I didn't think about myself doing this long walk at all. And I was exclusively focused on these characters, their limitations, their motivations. Did you feel that way?
I know what you mean. Not quite as much as you, but like I think anytime I was thinking about myself, it was more just it in a moment of empathy rather than a like, what would I do? So like I was imagining how it would feel to be walking for 4 days without eating or sleeping. Like I was imagining how my feet would feel, how my body would feel, how hungry I would feel. And I guess I probably had a passing thought if I wouldn't last long in this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I came to that assumption in the conclusion in the first couple minutes of like, no, well, fuck no, of course I wouldn't.
Also, like I'm 5'2", my legs aren't surviving 3 miles an hour. Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
And I think that about most zombie movies. Like I think that happens a lot where I just try to remove myself from the equation.
But you're right. Versus in like the Hunger Games, I'm thinking a lot about what would my strategy be? How would I survive? And mine is I would hide in a tree for days. Like that's what I would do because I'm not equipped to handle that.
And I think that participatory quality is unique to YA.
Yes.
And I think the more mature fiction I'm talking about it's about the story. It's about those characters. It's not about you.
Well, and in YA too. Like, I mean, The Hunger Games is written in first person present tense. Like, that's a very like natural way to get your reader to graft onto your main character and insert themselves. Stephen King doesn't, I don't think, ever write in first person. He's very much like third person, exploring lots of characters. So you are much more focused on the characters as their own people and less on yourself. So anytime you're engaging with your own self, it's really just through empathetic reading. So yeah.
The third element I had that I wanted to play with here relative to the intensity is going back to our discussion of premises and the idea of simplicity. We've talked about kind of the theatrical comparison here of how much great drama can feel like a play and great acting can remind you of stage acting and just the immortality of these simple crafts. And if you zoom out from all of the emotion and the character work, this is 90 minutes of watching a couple guys stumble down a road. And it becomes such unbearable dramatic fodder. And I was trying to figure out where else have I seen that level of simplicity? If this was such an affecting experience for me, what else is it like? I talked about Inside before within the horror realm, but I don't think that's quite it. I think that's a partial comparison.
Yeah.
I think there's something better here.
Okay.
If it's a bunch of guys stumbling down the road in this slightly explained fanciful apocalypse, I think the better comparison for narrative intensity and holy shit, what a ride as a moviegoer sitting down in the seat, I think it's Mad Max Fury Road.
Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's true. It's just we're in cars and stuff instead of on foot.
The whole plot of Mad Max is we drive one way and then we drive the other way back. And that's the whole movie.
And there's an apocalypse and there's a tyrannical government and people are dying constantly.
There's a tyrant speechifying from on high occasionally. Don't get addicted to water, that whole thing.
And we're flashing back to our tragic past.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I think this is remarkably similar to that. But again, it feels like a pared down version of Fury Road that maintains all of the potency without some of the flair.
Right. And it's kind of one cast of characters, whereas Mad Max kind of explores out to different groups. We meet different groups along the way.
Do you remember your experience? Like, how would you reflect on your experience of seeing Fury Road in theaters compared to this?
I was much more emotional in The Long Walk, for sure. I mean, there are emotional highs definitely in Fury Road, especially with the character of Furiosa. But Charlize Theron is so good in that movie.
Yes.
But that was more like high octane, like my heartbeat's going really fast. It is boom, 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 boom. The music is so important in that movie. Like, that's an example where the music, you notice the music and it's essential and it's a key part of the story. And it's like almost a character in the movie, and it's not compensating for anything. It's just an amazing element of the movie. In The Long Walk, it was more like I was just on truly an emotional roller coaster where I'm terribly afraid and then terribly sad and then terribly hopeful and then all three at the same time. And it's like that over and over and over again. So that I felt jerked around, but emotionally, whereas Mad Max, I felt jerked around like in terms of, I don't know, like I had been on a physical ride, I guess.
Because there's so much cinematic quality to Mad Max, where it is these massive bursts of color. The music is so heavy and driving and exciting. Even the weapons and the violence that we talked about is more of the cool factor.
Yeah.
It's... I do think there's a similar intensity, even if everything else is different. Obviously, on a plot level, bare bones, there's a similarity there. But I think the intensity of the viewing experience is what kind of locked me in, because... And just, I mean, I guess you have to get personal with some of these things because this is such a subjective conversation. But at this point, what do we see? 3 or 4 movies a week?
Yeah.
When Mad Max Fury Road came out, it was the first movie I saw after my mom died. And I hadn't seen a movie in, I think, 3 months. I hadn't really left the house.
Yeah.
And that's a huge gap when we're that used to this tradition. This experience of the color and the sound and the light, and giving yourself over to a story, immersing all 5 senses, locking away the rest of your life, and just being in this fantasy. To not have that for so long. And then the first movie we saw, I remember it was just you and me in an IMAX.
Yeah, it was IMAX, yeah.
And it must have been a weird time of day because there was no one else there. It's the only time I've ever seen that.
I think we did like a Saturday matinee, like it was random and weird.
Yeah, it was an IMAX screening that was empty for Mad Max Fury Road with all the, the sound system and the huge screen, and I hadn't seen a movie in 3 months. So that experience was completely overwhelming. And I had this kind of mom trauma in the back of my head.
Yeah.
The Long Walk has a mom trauma built in to the story.
It does, yeah.
I don't want to go further than that, but there's obviously the families of these boys aren't going to be happy with this. Hey, if you win and everyone else gets shot behind you, then we get a lot of money. But if not, I have to watch my child be murdered. Like,
yeah, right.
There's obviously that tension there,
of
and
course.
you get to know one of the boys' families. But I thought that was an interesting through line, maybe just for me.
Yeah.
Because these experiences were so revelatory. With Mad Max, it was the sound and the fury. It was the color and the everything being centered in frame, the intensity, the propulsion of the way that film is crafted. And here it was getting lost in emotion and character and all these little beats I was noticing. One of my favorite things about David Johnson's performance here is how physical it is. I talked before about how every one of the boys walks differently. But it's also how they interact with each other, when they're leaning on each other, when they're trying to sleep and get some energy back. But it's also how they touch each other, whether it's a hand on the back to console or if there's violence between two of them. But David Johnson is so tactile with Ray. This relationship is so much... There's a desperation and a physicality and a warmth there that, I mean, like you said, it only takes place over a couple days, and the way they get to know each other, it has this fast-tracked intensity. And I loved that there were moments where they're holding on to each other. So I felt this emotional shortcut to investment in this story in the same way, almost depriving, not having seen a movie in months, gave me that, wow, I'm immediately overwhelmed by Fury Road.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one of the things that really struck me was not only that these boys, didn't want anybody else to die. It was when somebody fell behind, they would try to help each other.
Yeah.
Because you would think, like, well, in terms of survival, if somebody falls behind, you let them die because that's one more down, but instead they all gather together and try to encourage somebody when they fall behind, like, hey, you've got to get up, or you've got to keep walking, or let me literally take my own warning, run back and try to pick you up and help you. Like, that happened every time somebody died.
And it's
amazing.
Heartwarming every time because it's almost anathema to the spirit of the competition.
Yeah.
But it's also just such a kind and pure and selfless act. You know what that reminded me of? In Great British Bake Off, where they help people.
Yes,
if someone finishes early,
other.
They always run and help whoever needs, help with the icing or whatever when they're finishing
because they know
up.
it's a competition and you want to be the one who wins, but you also don't want to lose your humanity in the process. And this whole movie is about maintaining your humanity and basically giving a giant fuck you to the kind of attitude and mindset that this competition tries to create and tries to encourage. It's pushing against that. So the whole thing is like an act of revolution, even though they're participating in this thing and trying to be the one who doesn't die among 30 or 50. Like, that very act is pushing against it. And so much of this movie meditates on that.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie was really geared towards you. It was made for you. It's all these, boys and young men who are like, and there's so much about moms and mothers. I mean, you lost your mom when you were 20, and so many of these kids are around that age. And of course, you've got our main character and his relationship with his mom, which is really beautiful. But I think also at one point, like, one thing that was interesting about this movie was what happens when you become so exhausted and delirious, and like, what does your body and mind go through? And I think one kid at one point just like says, like, I want my mom. Like, that's just kind of the thing that happens even when you're an adult, when you're so exhausted and overwhelmed. Like, that's the thing that you ask for and cling to. It was really tragic.
And so much of the drama is based in ethics. Every death is a thought experiment. And that's what I love too, when there's philosophically informed narrative. And this felt like that. To go back to something you said a little bit ago, you were talking about this film feeling distinctly American. And I agree with that. And I agreed with that at the time. But that idea of the Great British Bake Off thing, of them helping the person who needs it and putting the competition aside, putting their own self-interest aside. We always joke when we watch that show that action feels distinctly un-American.
Yes, in American competitions, it's, I'm not here to make friends. Fuck everybody around me.
Yeah,
I'm
fuck you, I got
I'm going
mine.
to sabotage everybody and and be upset when somebody else wins Star Baker. Versus on Bake Off, they're all so happy for each other when they do well, and they comfort each other when they don't do well.
And at its worst, I think that American instinct is the Goodfellas, fuck you, pay me. I think it's exclusive radical self-interest, and that being the only motivating principle. Endless, boundless, open and proud greed. Do you still think that this film feels distinctly American? Like, is there also that element to the American spirit? Well, that sort of charity and kindness?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what's happened systemically, and like with this tyrannical, overbearing government, that is incredibly American, where they are leaning into and trying to, again, cultivate a very individualistic way of being, of you will be the last remaining survivor, and as a reward for, not dying or for letting people die around you, you will get money and whatever you want. Like, and not like you can help other people, just you'll get money, only you.
The two ends of the spectrum are money and gun violence.
Right. So that feels, of course, very American. But I think what's going on with the competitors, with the boys, is they're pushing against that. And I don't know if that feels American or...
I think it does. I think that's the best and the worst of the American spirit. I
guess
think
so, yeah.
Forming the colonies and creating this new community.
That feels democratic.
The freedom and, again, community. I think that is... that watching out for your neighbor and building this new thing together, the social safety net, I think that is the best of
no one
this
person
country.
in charge. Like, it's a group community effort.
Yeah.
Like, we want, like, that's, wanting representation, wanting votes for everybody, versus
exactly.
one person being in charge. Yeah. I mean, it's anti-monarchy. So yeah, I guess so.
It's interesting to kind of, to go back to that immortal, the angel and devil on the shoulder. This film is a contrast, a conflict between the best of America and the worst. And they're on screen together, butting up against each other. the entire time. So yeah, I think this does still feel American, even though they're nice to each other.
Yeah. That's
interesting. Staging that conflict, I think it does make it more timeless and more universal, and I'm sure relevant to people even outside the country.
Of course, yeah.
These are such foundational human ideas, and ethical concerns are universal story devices.
Sure.
I got so much out of this film. I thought that it was going to be experiential. When the lights came up, I thought it was going to be one of those roller coaster movies where you can never replicate how it felt that first time. Yeah. If I watch it again the next day, it won't be as breathless and intense. But again, I think by talking it out like this, I appreciate it even more. I think I get even more out of it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm curious how it feels on a second watch. And I'm sure I'll notice a lot more things because there's so much going on the screen at all times. And
will you ever watch this again?
Not for a while, but I'd like to again.
Like, would you, the other ones we talked about, would you ever watch Civil War or Warfare or Inside? Would you ever watch any of those things again?
I would watch Civil War again. I don't know if I could watch Warfare again. That one was a lot. It was really good, but it was a lot. Inside, I could watch that again.
Can you think of any other kind of harrowing experiences with art that you don't ever want to go back to?
Funny Games. I can't watch that again.
We did an episode on that one too.
That's an incredible movie. I don't ever want to watch it again. It really troubled me really, really deeply. And I don't think I can watch it again. Just because of the way it's done. And we talked all about that in our episode.
Yeah, we kind of called that an anti-horror movie.
Yeah, that movie is so good. And it really, I think, altered and kind of reshaped the way I look at horror. And it was really interesting, but I could never watch it again, I don't think.
Do you think it's bad? Like I hear people talk a lot about rewatchability, or in the term in games, replayability.
Yeah,
being a huge asset.
It is. It certainly can be, but you don't have to have it for it to be. I mean, I remember Funny Games all the time. There are other movies that I could totally rewatch, but I never think about. I think about Funny Games like once a week. So
because there are other things that affect me or scare the shit out of me that I'm fine rewatching, like the first Hell House.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd rewatch that once a week just to get more out of it.
It's so fun to
learn
rewatch
more out of it.
It's so upsetting. Yeah.
It is absolutely, utterly horrifying every time I watch it.
It sure is. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So I don't think rewatchability is an essential quality. It's wonderful when something is rewatchable, and when you get, I mean, like Ari Aster movies, you get more and more out of them every time you watch them, and that's a really cool thing, but that's not the only way for something to have value.
Yeah, I can't tell if this would be more painful or less the second time, and I'm not sure I want to find out.
I think it would be more, which is maybe why I'd be hesitant, but I would watch it after a while as a, like, I know this is going to be a cathartic experience, so I'm going to watch it. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas Funny Games is not cathartic. It's just deeply troubling. Punishing. It just hurts. It only hurts because you don't feel hopeful. Like The Long Walk had a lot of moments of hope and like humanity, and Funny Games is very anti that. And so that makes you just feel awful. So yeah. Very
so our fullest recommendation.
No, this movie was so fabulous, and I'm really glad we didn't really spoil it, because I really want everybody to see this and to be surprised by all the amazing things that this movie has to offer.
It'll be really better in a theater, but if you do miss it in a theater, just do the thing right at home. Lights off, no phone,
just actually
lock in.
Watch it. Yeah.
It is I think when we do our Brecky's award show at the end of the year,
it's going to be up there.
We can't forget this one.
No, I of course I really want to go read the book now, so I'd like to see what that's like, and what I'm sure there are characters that were omitted or simplified, in the movie, so I'd like to see what that's like.
Speaking of books
and audio books and writer directors and that sort of thing, check out Cam's latest book, Lemon Tarts in Space. Did you know Cam is an author? Well, folks, he is. This movie is a light sci-fi dark comedy. It's this movie fuck this
Not
book
yet.
This book anybody want to adapt it? Let us know. No, this book is a light sci-fi.
I'll be annoying the whole time.
Yeah, light sci-fi dark comedy. It's Flubber meets Friday the 13th. It's Alien meets Monty Python. It is so funny, so good, and so moving. And it is written by Cam, and he, it's a novel. You can read it as a novel, or you can listen to the fully produced audio drama, which Cam also wrote and directed and acts in, as well as our good friend of the show, Tristan. He stars in this
fantastic
audio drama as well. Yeah, he's really, really good. Please check that out. The links to buy or listen to that are in the description down below. Also, check out our Patreon. Did you know we have a Patreon?
Pretty much everything we've plugged so far in this episode, or everything we've discussed, we've done an episode on. But we've got reams and reams of bonus episodes.
So much over there. Patrons get, for $2 a month, you get 2 bonus episodes every single month. And of course, access to everything else we put out in the past so far. There's lots and lots to check out over there. We really appreciate our patrons. They are our favorites. So thank you so much for supporting us. If you want to support us in a way that doesn't involve money, like, subscribe, follow, add, favorite, whatever the fuck all those things are, click the stuff. It's, click the like button. It's so easy. A caveman could do it.
I do that automatically. When I open a video, I immediately click the thumbs
Me too,
up.
because like the 2000s, 2010s YouTube era trained me to like the video. Like they really pushed that.
Repetition.
You can even click the subscription bell to let us know the notification bell to let us know, because we put out new episodes every Friday, but sometimes like this one, we put out a random emergency episode on a Monday or a Tuesday or whenever.
If you've made it all the way to the end here, do you want to do a little preview of what's coming on Friday?
Cam, I don't remember.
What's coming on Friday is...
is it our 2-hour episode?
It is. So, again, the advantage of us going to weekly episodes is that we get to go much longer and deeper on works of art.
Absolutely.
And this discussion on Friday, I guess I can tell you what it's about.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's another conceptual episode. How do you end a franchise?
This was a really fun discussion. It was great too, because Cam, prepped the notes as he always does. We sat down, we thought, okay, this will probably be a 45-minute episode. And it took us 2 hours. But friends, it is such a fun discussion. We talk about 3 franchises. We talk about The Conjuring. We talk about Sex and the City / And Just Like That. And then we also talk about Downton Abbey. And it was a really, really fun discussion. And that's kind of what we do over on the Patreon, is we call the Breakfast Buffet series, where we talk about multiple things all together.
In conversation with each other.
And that's really interesting. So this was kind of like a really big buffet. I guess extra bacon or something, extra eggs, a large buffet table, and it's the breakfast buffet, second breakfast, you get it. Anyway, go check out, or stay tuned for that episode. It's going to be really, really fun.
And our most recent bonus episode on Patreon was a really in-depth discussion of Renee Rapp's Bite Me, which we are agreed is the best pop album in many years.
That episode was really fun.
It's a kaleidoscope of every pop star from the last 20 years, while also adding this incredibly powerful original element to it.
Totally. Go check that out.
What an album. But also, we had a lot of fun doing that discussion.
So that came out yesterday, by the time this is dropping?
I think so, yes.
Okay, yesterday. Yeah, go check that out. Okay, cool. Thank you so very much for listening, for supporting the show. Please comment below, send us an email, etc. Keep the conversation going. We love to do that. Otherwise, we'll catch you here in just a few days with another brand new episode.